Hello and welcome back to Asia Now. In this video, I have a crazy story about an American veteran whose wife ratted him out and now he's facing life in prison in the Philippines. And in a crazy coincidence, I actually interviewed him on my main channel. I'll go ahead and leave the link to that video if you guys want to check out the full interview. Let's read today's story, read some comments. As usual, I'll go ahead and share my personal thoughts. Here we go. Someone on Facebook writes, "Help needed for 76-year-old American veteran facing life sentence in Cebu City. I'm posting regarding the dire situation of 76-year-old Vietnam vet William Lee Madison Lee. He's been in Cebu City jail for 8 months now. Lee has been living in the Philippines for many years. Married to a Pinoy whose name he bought several valuable properties. He was arrested when 3 medical marijuana plants were found in his condo. Lee used them to manage the pain for cancer, prostate and bowel, and a fractured leg. Sadly, his estranged Pinay wife, according to Lee, tipped off the PDEA and he now faces charges that could lead to a life sentence. His health is deteriorating. Besides battling cancer, he must use a catheter to urinate, with a high risk of infection given to the overcrowded conditions. Cells typically use 100+ prisoners. I'm not an American, but given the Philippines' current political situation and its need for strong U.S.-Philippine relations, especially the support of the U.S. Navy, it seems inappropriate to treat U.S. Navy vets this way. Both his lawyer and the U.S. Embassy have proved ineffective to date. If anyone here has contacts with veterans groups, legal aid organizations, religious groups, media outlets, senior U.S. Philippines politicians, or any other resources that might help, please DM me. I'm no longer in Cebu, but I don't think Lee has had any visitors for around 7 months. If anyone has courage to visit him in Cebu City Jail, hills above Guadalupe, I'm sure he would be incredibly grateful. If you can't go yourself but would like to offer assistance, let me know and I can try to arrange it." At 19, Lee didn't hesitate to answer the call from his country and served 2 tours in Vietnam and the U.S. Navy, Seabees, building airfields, infrastructure, and so forth. To my mind, it's payback time for his country and his countrymen to help him. P.S. Please refrain from the, quote, "what an idiot," end quote, "he should have gone to Thailand" type post. Yes, he was a fool. But if everyone who did something foolish in their lives was carted off to spend the rest of their lives in jail, the jails would be even more crowded than they currently are. Before we dive into the comment section, if you're new to the channel or enjoy these videos but haven't had a chance to subscribe, take a quick second, hit that subscribe button. It's completely free, but really motivates me to make these videos. And hit that thumbs up button so more people can find out about Lee's story. Let's take a look at our first comment. Someone says, "The law is the same for everybody, even for veterans. As pot smoker, I am not a fan of their drug laws and feel sorry for him. But Lee's whole as a veteran, the government should treat him otherwise is just pure bullshit." I'm not really sure how to feel because I'm not a veteran and I don't smoke weed, so for me it's difficult to have an opinion, but I'm kind of in between thoughts right now because some of these laws are really harsh, the punishment for some of the crimes. But then again, as a traveler, as a foreigner, someone living in a different land, you should kind of be aware of these situations in case something does happen. Although I disagree with life in prison for smoking weed. Let's go on to the next comment. Another person says, "I think the US government may strike a deal to get him out. I mean, we work with the Philippines and have base coming here, so how would that look?" I'm not really sure because this is just one individual, right? Of course, the US government wants to help us as citizens, and the Filipino government, I'm sure, would like to cooperate, but this is a crime, and it's one individual who knew what they were doing. They're a grown person. I guess this is where discretion comes in play because he was using it for medicinal purposes and not just to get high or whatever, so maybe that has some kind of pull and leeway with the government. I don't know. Let's read the next comment. "Did you try contacting Rafi Tolfo in action?" Hey, what a coincidence once again. Yeah, we did a story yesterday about that German guy selling empanadas in the Philippines. If you haven't seen that video, you got some really good feedback from what I did yesterday, so take a look at that video, and he would be the perfect person to go ahead and contact in hopes of trying to get this guy out of prison, or at least reduce his sentence where he can actually see the daylight, you know? So Rafi Tolfo would be an excellent choice. Another person says, "I don't think that he would get a life sentence in prison for only 3 plants in his condo. He was just a user and not a dealer, and considering his age and bad physical condition, I am sure he will be given 3 to 6 year sentence, and below 6 years and 1 day will be given of parole, especially he was never involved in any other drug case before. The problem is the Philippines. Justice is very slow. It can easily take at least 2 to 3 years until his promulgation, whatever that is, especially when he has a lawyer who is in a moneymaker. He need really urgent help, which I can't give him. I am too far from Cebu City." So the problem with some of these comments is it doesn't really matter what you and I think, you know, it doesn't matter what we think should be right or whatever. These countries have very specific laws, and the law is the law sometimes. And depending on the prosecutor and how they want to maybe make an example of this person so nobody else does this in the future, it can really go either way. It can be really low sentence, or it can be really, really long term. But the truth behind what he said is that the Philippines legal system can take a long time. I've heard of cases taking years to even go to trial. So let's read a couple more comments and I'll tell you guys my personal thoughts. Another person says, as a military combat veteran myself, my heart goes out to that guy. Somebody that gave their blood and sweat to our country. However, I am also a disabled veteran. I suffer from PTSD from combat exposure and a list of other conditions. And I would never ever do anything illegal in a country, especially one that is very strict laws with drugs. That is why I'm currently living in Thailand. Sadly to say, he made his own decisions and he knew the consequences of such actions. It's doubtful anything can be done to help him. I wish him the best and hope for a miracle for him so he does not have to spend the rest of his years in prison. So this guy pretty much said what I said earlier. He made some excellent points in his comments, and I have to go ahead and agree with everything he said, really. And lastly, someone says, it sucks to be him, and while I sympathize, I am in the laws are the laws group. I'm a vet too, and as such, I feel I should hold myself to a higher standard while in another country. We all represent our home countries, but most military members have it pounded into them to act as ambassadors for the country. If I were to find myself in this unfortunate state of health, I would go home to get care. So that was the story of Lee. You know, it's easy for me to sit here in my ivory tower and start to judge people. Also, I don't smoke weed. I'm not a senior. I don't really know. I don't have medical conditions. Although that doesn't excuse anything. You know, I feel like as a grown person, you should be able to make your own decisions and live by the consequences. One thing I do have to say, I would try to find some leniency given the fact that he was using it for medicinal purposes. He is older. I don't think he had any ill intention on other people, right? So this was for his own use. So if there are some organizations, some lawyers, someone that can go ahead and like kind of work with that angle, I do see a sentence not being a life sentence. Now, personally, I'm not in Cebu City. I would have loved to go and visit him, and I don't plan on going back to Cebu in a while, so I can't be of any help. But who knows what can happen with the story. Perhaps he can reach out to Rafi Tolfo, send him an email. Although I feel like Rafi probably knows about the story. Somebody must have reached out to him. That's a sad thing about being a senior in a separate country. You can't put all your eggs in one basket, right? Like, the older I get, the more cautious I become, and that's a normal thing in life, right? So if you're ever going to another country and you want to start relationships, you can't make that person your whole world. There's much more to life than just one person. I don't want to blame his wife or assume that she was the bad person, although he says, you know, that she was the person who ratted him out, right? So I don't know what the details are with that, but I'm saying, let's say I was single and I wouldn't even invite people over to my place and let them know where the plants are or whatever, right? So there's a whole, you know, different angles on this. Let me know what you think. Do you think you should get leniency? Do you think the laws are the laws? You should stay in prison? I'd love to hear from you. Leave your comments down below. This is a community. If you guys take the time to write, I'll take the time to respond. And as I mentioned earlier, I have him on the channel. If you guys want to see that full interview I did with him, just randomly, I guess, I'll leave the link down below. And let's take a look at yesterday's top comments, because I remember now. Yesterday I forgot again. So this is our section, yesterday, today. Yesterday's video was about the German guy who's selling empanadas on the street in the Philippines because, once again, his wife apparently screwed him over. So here's the top comment. One of the top comments was from Arthur, who says, in all reality, Filipinos can work in other countries. They should allow foreigners to work also, especially if they work for themselves and not taking work from locals. In which I responded, true, but do you know what a Filipino has to do or go through to leave the country, let alone to work abroad? It's just not the same as a foreigner just jumping on a plane and coming here without any work visa or work permit and start working. So that's the difference, right? So they do allow foreigners to work in the Philippines. Nobody said you can't work here as a foreigner, but you need the proper documentation, right? The whole idea was that guy overstayed by 8 years and started selling empanadas on the street. I don't think that's quite fair, to be honest, to be that like inconsiderate. Now, what's the word I'm looking for? Irresponsible, and then expect people to go ahead and bill you out. I mean, that's just my personal opinion. I want to know what you think. But then he did correct himself by saying, what I meant to say is Filipino nationals with proper work permits or residency can work in other countries. Same goes for foreigners in the Philippines. Yeah, and in that case, it's the same. And there's no difference between foreigners or Filipinos in any country. And here's my personal favorite comment from yesterday. Someone says, those are my favorite chips, Alex. Ticket deleted? Bullshit, because where is your receipt or transaction from your bank? Your ticket either should have been replaced or your money refunded. Funny, he never mentioned that. I think he stayed hoping to win his wife back. Never bought a return ticket. Time lapsed and he lost his job in Germany. Probably pissed off his family too in Germany. He never went to the German embassy for assistance either. He probably figured he would just wing it and continue renewing his tourist visa. But then that time allotment ran out and he was stuck. If it wasn't for that TikTok girl getting his story out, then he had to ask for help. After all, now the authorities are aware of him. He probably would still just be on the streets illegally, selling empanadas illegally, until he was caught. All sounds fishy because he said he put in for a spousal visa. So what happened to that application? Oh, it probably got deleted too. But he's married and he has been in the country for 8 years. So he may have hope and prayer simply because this charity guy and the televised episode on him maybe helped to apply for a permanent resident at the immigration. Yeah, so I love that comment because it's pretty much what a lot of us are probably thinking, and it's probably the most likely scenario, everything he just said. And one thing I want to say, like, the TikTok girl, she's not just there for him. Let's be honest, TikTok gets views, she gets popularity, clout, all that stuff. Same with Rafi Tulfo. He's a great guy. I'm sure he helps people. He genuinely wants to help, but a lot of that has to do with views. And same with me. I make these videos, yeah, partly to help you guys, but I also earn money from these videos. I'm on YouTube. I get a couple $100 a month. So I'm not saying it's all bad stuff, but you always got to see the whole picture, right? I'm not saying everything that guy said was BS, but there seems to be a lot of holes in the story. Not everybody does everything from the kindness of their hearts. Like, I wish the world was like that, but let's be realistic, let's be grown-ups, and by knowing these things, hopefully we make better decisions, and hopefully we're never going to be in these people's situation. But yeah, let me know, maybe I'm just like, what's the word I'm looking for? A cynic? Being cynical? I don't know, but the good thing is, as long as you do good stuff, you're in control of your life, and we can all just hope that everybody does the same thing. I'm just rambling as usual. So if you guys enjoyed this video, take a quick second, hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, give me that thumbs up so YouTube knows you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys probably tomorrow because a lot of news to cover. Bye.